You've seen some tumultuous times in politics. Where does yesterday rank in those all-time highs and lows?
Pretty close to the top. I mean, the shock effect of that budget 2 weeks ago has rattled around the world, really, rattled around the financial markets, both international currency markets and gilt markets, which has impact for pensions. It's rattled around politics. I mean, you'll both know as well as I do that a lot of our colleagues are sort of sitting in a sort of slightly shocked sense of terror at the impact on their prospects for getting re-elected. So, and yesterday, frankly, it sort of staunched the flow in a sense, but it's still a pretty grim prospect for the Conservative Party and the government. That being said, I think the appointment of, I think the removal of Kwasi Kwarteng was inevitable. I mean, he was to a very large extent responsible for the loss of credibility 2 weeks ago. That's what happened. It wasn't the numbers that hit the markets. It was the credibility of the program that hit the markets. And so I suspect she had no choice but to replace him. And the replacement so far today, this morning, has shown himself to be very self-assured, and he's clearly creating space for action, talking about cancelling the various cuts and talking about bringing spending under control. Now, whether that's going to prove viable with our parliament we have at the moment, I don't know. But he's certainly got off a good start, and we'll have to see how the markets respond to him.
David, you'll have read all the headlines this morning. Liz will have been reading them, made for terrible reading, particularly the Daily Mail. How much more can she and the rest of us take? So what should and can Liz be doing to remain in number 10 from here on in?
Well, the whole thing comes down to delivering a steady hand. I mean, our colleagues will be, as I say, in shock. But I think most of them are not going to sort of move instantaneously. There's obviously a lot of public plotting going on. I mean, the more people talk in the newspapers, the less effective they are sometimes, I think. But I think they'll wait a bit, and maybe a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months, and watch what happens with the polls. But she's going to have to give the new Chancellor his head, allow him to do what he wants to do, and see whether that works. The truth is, of course, I mean, if you have to put odds on the survival of the Prime Minister, I would think they're not very good. But whether it happens, whether there's a sudden attempted coup tomorrow or one in 3 months' time, she's got a pretty big job to recover the confidence that she had a few months ago.
David, I think many people, particularly on the Conservative benches, wouldn't fancy the prospect of another leadership contest to go through what we went through over the summer, which means that there have to be an attempt to try and have a unity candidate that's agreed by acclamation if Liz Truss were to be replaced.
Yeah.
I mean, you allowed that to happen in 2003 when you stood aside to allow Michael Howard a free run at the leadership. What do you think the chances of that happening now are?
Well, I watched with amusement, Philip, you shaking your head when I was talking about the prospects of Liz lasting 3 months. But I think the thing that is, as it were, on her side is that nobody really wants another leadership contest. It will make the party look stupid, and it will be uncomfortable, painful even. Now, but however, that being said, I don't see the prospect of a so-called unity candidate as being at all probable. There's lots of wishful thinking going on, but you're right. I stood aside. Remember, at the time, I was the favourite. But I looked at the prospects for the next few months at that time. It would have been possible for Blair to wait for the vicious fighting that always takes place in leadership contests to conclude, and then use all our ammunition against us in a snap general election, which is why I stood aside. But you see anybody who looks like a favourite now standing aside to make way for somebody else? I don't.